Vampires suck, but their legends bite even harder. Let's meet them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pantheon mythology, and these are the vampires from Mythology and Folklore. Just to clarify, in this video we'll be exploring entities with vampiric traits, not just your classic Count Dracula types. We'll be taking a tour by region, giving some structure to the many forms these creatures take around the world. And quickly, if you love mythology, be sure to check out our clothing brand, Pantheon Apparel. We've got epic designs inspired by mythology, folklore and legends, with worldwide shipping and an excellent rating on Trustpilot. You'll find a link in the description. Alright, let's sink our teeth into this. Starting in Africa, we have the Adza, a vampiric entity from the folklore of the Ewe people in Ghana and Togo. This creature is known for its ability to transform into a firefly, making it difficult to spot as it slips through small openings like cracks or keyholes at night. While in this form, it drains the blood of its victims, often targeting children. The Adza can also shapeshift back into a human form if captured, and in this state, it can possess individuals, turning them into living vampires who may act out of envy or malice. The Assan Basam is a fearsome creature from the folklore of the Ashanti people in Ghana, as well as parts of Togo and the Ivory Coast. This entity is known for its eerie tree-dwelling habits. With iron teeth and hooked feet, they hang from branches, waiting to snatch unsuspecting passers-by who wander into the forest. Its hooked legs allow it to grip tree limbs while silently watching for prey, and legends describe it as having human-like form but with bat-like features, such as sharp teeth and sometimes even wings. The Obao, also from Ashanti folklore, is a sinister figure known for draining the life force from both humans and plants. It's especially feared for targeting children, leaving them weak and sickly. At night, the Obao emits a faint glow from its armpits and anus, hinting at its presence as it moves silently in the dark. Its ability to sap energy extends to crops as well, leading to withered fields and barren harvests, making it a source of agricultural misfortune. Legends suggest that the Obao might be born with its powers or become one through dark practices, blending elements of witchcraft and vampirism. The Asiman is from the folklore of the Dahomey people, found in present-day Benin. It is often depicted as a type of vampiric witch with the ability to perform dark magic. The Asiman can remove its skin and transform into a glowing orb or corpse candle, enabling it to fly through the night in search of prey. One of the unique traits of the Asiman is its ability to take on different animal forms, particularly at night. It feeds on the blood or essence of its victims, much like the traditional vampire, and is thought to possess significant magical abilities. The Impundulu, or lightning bird, is a vampiric creature from South African folklore, particularly among the Xhosa and Zulu people. Known for its ability to summon thunderstorms, it appears as a striking bird with black and white feathers. The Impundulu has an insatiable thirst for blood, preying on both humans and animals. Often linked to witchcraft, it serves as a familiar for witches, passed down through generations. It can also shapeshift, sometimes taking the form of an attractive human to seduce its victims. The Ramanga, from the folklore of the Bestileo people of Madagascar, is known as a living vampire who performs a unique ritualistic role. It serves tribal elders by consuming the blood and nail clippings of nobles after certain ceremonies or medical procedures. This act was believed to be a way of honouring the elite, and also perhaps to protect their essence, ensuring it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands. Now, moving into North America, we have the Chupacabra, whose name means goat sucker in Spanish. It is a creature that became part of Latin American folklore in the mid-1990s, beginning with sightings in Puerto Rico. Initially described as a reptilian creature with spines along its back, red eyes and sharp fangs, it was blamed for mysterious livestock deaths where animals were found completely drained of blood. Reports of similar attacks quickly spread to other regions, including Mexico, Chile, and parts of the southern United States, leading to widespread panic among farmers. The Fifole is a mysterious spirit from Louisiana folklore. Often seen as a glowing ball of light drifting through the swamps, the Fifole can sometimes take on a darker, more sinister role. Some stories describe it as the spirit of a deceased person sent back to Earth, but instead of seeking redemption, it targets the living. In certain tales, it is said to drink the blood of children, resembling a vampire. This aspect is often linked to the belief that the Fifole could be the soul of a child who died before baptism, cursed to roam the swamps and draw life from the innocent. The Sukuna is a well-known figure in Caribbean folklore, particularly in Trinidad, Dominica, and other islands. By day, she appears as an old woman living quietly among villagers, but at night, she sheds her skin and transforms into a ball of fire. In this form, she can slip through the smallest cracks and openings to enter homes, where she drinks the blood of sleeping victims. This act leaves behind a telltale blue-black mark on the skin, a sign that someone has been visited by the Soucouyant. The Richmond Vampire is a well-known urban legend from Richmond, Virginia, tied to the tragic collapse of the Churchill Tunnel in 1925. According to the story, when the tunnel partially collapsed, a bloodied figure with sharp, jagged teeth was seen emerging from the debris. The figure, described as having skin hanging from its bones, fled the scene and reportedly disappeared into the mausoleum of William Wortham Poole in Hollywood Cemetery. This event led to rumours that Poole, who had died years earlier, was actually a vampire who had been disturbed by the tunnel disaster. The legend grew over the years, spurred by tales of strange occurrences around Poole's tomb and whispers of occult activity. It became a popular ghost story among locals, especially students from nearby Virginia Commonwealth University, who would sneak into the cemetery at night hoping to catch a glimpse of the vampire or experience something supernatural. The Ure Radu is a figure from Wyandot folklore that blends elements of both vampiric and zombie-like traits. Described as an evil spirit, it inhabits recently deceased bodies, causing them to rise from the grave and attack the living. Unlike traditional vampires which feed solely on blood, the Ure Radu devours its victims, making it a more gruesome and terrifying presence. The legend suggests that these creatures were feared for their relentless corpse-like hunger, and communities would take measures to protect themselves from these reanimated threats. From North now to South America, we begin with the Abchanu, a notorious figure in Bolivian folklore known for luring travellers to their doom. This creature takes the form of a frail, elderly person who appears lost or in distress, often among remote paths. When a kind-hearted passerby stops to offer help, the Abchanu reveals its true nature, attacking the unsuspecting victim. Reports describe it as draining the blood of those who fall for its ruse, leaving them dead or sometimes afflicted with fatal disease shortly after the encounter. The Canchus are figures from ancient Peruvian folklore believed to be a class of devil worshippers who practiced dark rituals. They were notorious for drinking the blood of children, a practice thought to help them retain youth and vitality. According to the myths, Canchus would sometimes even sacrifice children as part of their rituals to appease the entities they worshipped. Also from Peru, the Pisto is known for its gruesome habit of extracting fat from its victims. Often described as a pale, human-like being, the Pisto is said to target lone travellers in the highlands, luring them to remote areas before attacking. This creature's name comes from the Quechua word piste, meaning to cut or behead, reflecting its violent nature. The Jarara, from Brazil, is a vampiric snake which, according to legend, it targets nursing mothers, latching onto them to drink their breast milk, while simultaneously using its tail to keep the baby quiet, placing it in the infant's mouth. This predatory behavior is seen as a dark inversion of nurturing, making the Jarara both sinister and parasitic. Some versions of the myth suggest that the creature disguises itself to get close to its victims. Remaining in Brazil, we have the Enur Radu, a dark figure in folklore known for its bloodthirsty nature. Cloaked entirely in black leather, the Enur Radu hunts at night, slipping into villages to prey on unsuspecting victims. Unlike other legends, he doesn't need an invitation. He gains trust through manipulation before attacking. Stories describe him draining the blood of both humans and livestock, making him feared across the countryside. What sets him apart is his resistance to typical deterrents like garlic and crosses. This invulnerability adds to his mystique, as he's believed to have supernatural strength and the ability to hypnotize his victims, making escape nearly impossible. The Peochen is a creature from the folklore of the Mapuche and Chilote people in southern Chile. Described as a gigantic winged serpent, the Peochen is known for its ability to shapeshift into various forms, making it a master of disguise. It preys primarily on livestock, particularly sheep, by draining their blood. The creature's gaze is said to have the power to paralyze its victims, leaving them defenseless against its attacks. It is often feared for the eerie, whistling sounds it emits during its nightly runs, adding to its chilling presence. Legends describe it as a malevolent being, and only a Machi, a spiritual healer within Mapuche culture, is believed to possess the knowledge and power to defeat it. Now into Europe with Arnold Pole, who is one of the most famous historical cases of vampirism from 18th century Serbia. After his death in 1726, he was believed to have become a vampire, sparking a wave of panic in his village of Medveja. Pole had served as a soldier, and during his military service he claimed to have been attacked by a vampire. To protect himself, he followed traditional practices by consuming earth from the vampire's grave and smearing himself with blood, hoping to avoid becoming one after his death. Despite these precautions, shortly after his passing from a fall, villagers reported seeing Pole wandering at night, and many began to die under mysterious circumstances, often describing symptoms of suffocation or strangulation. When villagers exhumed his body, they found it remarkably well preserved, with blood at the mouth, a classic sign of vampirism according to local beliefs. Authorities, including Austrian military officials, were involved in investigating these claims, and they eventually ordered Pole's body to be staked and burned, hoping to end the so-called epidemic. Following the tale of Arnold Pole, we come to the tale of Sava Sava, another famous vampire in Serbian folklore. Sava was said to reside in an old watermill near the village of Zarozje, hidden within the forests along the Rogačica River. According to legend, the mill became a place of fear. Anyone who ventured there after sunset would mysteriously disappear. Sava would emerge at night, preying on millers who worked late, draining their blood and leaving them lifeless by morning. The myth gained prominence when unexplained deaths began occurring, with victims showing strange marks, leading to fears of vampirism. Despite attempts to rid the area of him, Sava's spirit was believed to remain bound to the mill. Even as recently as 2012, local authorities in the region issued warnings, urging residents to avoid the area at night, suggesting that Sava had awoken once more. From Croatia, we have Ure Grand, often regarded as the first documented vampire in European history. Ure was a stonemason from the village of Kringa in Istria, who passed away in 1656. After his death, the villagers began experiencing strange nocturnal visits, mysterious knocks on doors followed by unexplained illnesses and deaths. Ure's widow even claimed he appeared to her, grinning eerily in the dead of night. Fearing that he had returned from the grave, a local priest along with a group of brave villagers decided to exhume his body. To their horror, they found Ure's corpse still intact, with a sinister smile frozen on his face. After unsuccessful attempts to pierce his heart, they ultimately decapitated him, and it is said the body let out a chilling scream as blood flowed from the cut. This act was believed to finally end his reign of terror, restoring peace to Kringa. The Strigoi are deeply rooted in Romanian folklore, known as restless spirits that rise from their graves to torment the living. Unlike many modern depictions of vampires, Strigoi are believed to embody the souls of the deceased who haven't found peace, often due to unresolved issues and improper burial rites. They can take on physical form, usually appearing as ghastly, decayed figures, but also have the ability to shapeshift into animals like wolves or bats, enhancing their eerie presence. In traditional Romanian beliefs, there are two main types: Strigoi vii, meaning living Strigoi, and Strigoi morti, dead Strigoi. The living are individuals believed to possess supernatural abilities, sometimes linked to witchcraft, while the dead are reanimated corpses that rise to drain the life force from their victims. To protect against these beings, communities would use rituals such as placing garlic in the coffins, staking the body, or burying it upside down. The Upir is a creature from Slavic folklore known for its association with blood-drinking and undead traits. Its earliest references date back to the 11th century in Old Russian texts, where it was described as a malevolent entity that preyed on the living, often linked with death and disease. The Upir was seen as a gruesome corpse-like being with sharp teeth, red eyes, and a ravenous thirst for blood. Legends say the Upir could rise from its grave, attacking victims during the night, and some variations even describe it transforming into animals. The Vurdalak from Russian folklore is a cursed being that preys on those closest to it. Unlike other vampire myths where the victims are strangers, the Vurdalak seeks out its own family members, drinking their blood and turning them into more of its kind. This twisted focus on loved ones makes it particularly sinister, as it threatens to spread its curse within tight-knit communities. The Alp from German folklore is a vampiric shape-shifting spirit known for its association with nightmares. Often described as a small, mischievous creature, the Alp has the unsettling ability to slip into homes at night, preying on sleeping victims. It can drain blood, often through the nipples of both men and women, and even consumes milk from women and cows. One of its distinctive traits is its ability to shapeshift into animals like cats, dogs, and even butterflies, using this skill to evade detection. The Nachzehrer, also from Germany, is a unique type of vampire-like creature known for its unsettling habits. Unlike other revenants, it doesn't primarily hunt by biting. Instead, it consumes its own burial shroud or even gnaws on its body while in the grave, a behavior believed to siphon the life force from its living relatives. This connection to death and disease made it notorious as a harbinger of plagues. Active at night, the Nachzehrer could also draw life from afar, causing its victims to weaken or fall ill without ever leaving its resting place. Another from German folklore is the Aufhocker, whose name translates as leap upon. This sinister figure often appears as a black dog lurking in the shadows and stalking lone travellers at night. Known for its vampiric tendencies, the Aufhocker drains its victims' vitality by strangling or biting, typically going for the throat. Legends describe it leaping onto the backs of unsuspecting travellers, crushing them under its weight until they collapse from exhaustion. It can also shapeshift, taking on the form of other animals, or even humans, to deceive its prey. The Dagh Dua, which translates to red bloodsucker, is a tragic yet fearsome figure from Irish folklore. Once a beautiful woman from Waterford, she was forced into a loveless marriage with an abusive man by her father, who ignored her wishes to marry someone she truly loved. Desperate and heartbroken, she took her own life. But this was not the end. Rising from her grave, she sought vengeance against those who wronged her, draining the life force of her cruel husband and father. Legends say she uses her beauty to lure victims, mesmerizing them before feeding on their blood. Even today, the site believed to be her burial near Strongbow's Tree in Waterford is said to be marked by stones piled by locals who hope to keep her from rising again. The Bavanshith from Scotland is a beautiful woman dressed in a long green dress that conceals her deer-like hooves. She is known for her seductive nature, luring men into the wilderness by appearing as a charming and alluring presence. Typically, she preys on groups of hunters who express desire for female company, magically appearing to dance with them. Once the men are entranced, she reveals her true nature, using sharp fingernails to draw blood from her victims until they are drained. The Berwick vampire legend dates back to medieval times and is one of the earliest accounts of vampiric activity in Britain. Recorded by William Newburgh of his Historia Rerum Anglicarum, the tale revolves around a deceased merchant from Berwick-upon-Tweed, whose restless spirit is said to rise from the grave at night. Following his death, locals noticed a series of strange occurrences and began to believe that the plague sweeping through the town was caused by the merchant's undead return. The vampire was blamed for bringing illness and terror, with some reports even stating that he physically attacked and drained the vitality from those he encountered. To stop the undead terror, villagers exhumed the body, which was found in an unusually preserved state, and performed a ritualistic burning. The Highgate Vampire emerged as a chilling legend in the late 1960s and 1970s, centred around mysterious sightings at Highgate Cemetery in North London. Reports began when locals described seeing a tall, dark figure with hypnotic red eyes drifting through the cemetery. The story gained notoriety after David Farrant, an occult enthusiast, claimed to encounter the entity on Christmas Eve in 1969. Shortly after, Sean Manchester, a self-proclaimed vampire hunter, declared that this was no ordinary spectre, but a king vampire from a medieval Wallachia, supposedly resurrected by modern occult practices. This sparked a public feud between Farrand and Manchester, both vying to be the one to vanquish the vampire. The media frenzy that followed culminated in a chaotic scene on March 13, 1970, when hundreds of would-be vampire hunters descended on the cemetery armed with stakes and crucifixes. Despite police attempts to control the crowd, graves were desecrated and the legend only grew. Manchester claimed to have performed exorcisms, including one where he attempted to stake the vampire but settled for rituals involving garlic and holy water. Meanwhile, Farrand's own efforts led to his arrest for grave tampering, although the case was eventually dismissed. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the tale of the Highgate Vampire became a sensation and remains an iconic piece of London folklore. The final one from my homeland, Britain in case you were unsure, is the Croglin Grange Vampire, originating from a story shared by Augustus Hare in the 19th century. Set in Cumberland, the tale follows a young woman named Amelia who, on a hot summer night, saw two eerie knights approaching her window. As the lights drew closer, she realized they were the eyes of a horrifying creature. The vampire broke through her window, and despite her terror, she managed to scream, alerting her brothers. They rushed to her aid, but the creature fled, disappearing into the nearby churchyard. After recovering, Amelia insisted on returning to Croglin Grange, believing the incident to be the work of a lunatic. However, the creature returned the following year, and this time her brothers were prepared. They shot the vampire in the leg as it escaped back to a crypt. The next day, they tracked it down to a vault with a damaged coffin containing a mummified figure bearing a fresh wound. To end the terror, they burned the corpse. The Empusa is a creature from Greek mythology closely tied to Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft and the underworld. Empusa is known for seducing young men by appearing as a beautiful woman, only to drain their blood and consume their flesh. She was often depicted with mismatched legs, one made of bronze and the other resembling a donkey's. Legends describe her ability to transform into various animals such as dogs or cows, allowing her to deceive and stalk her victims. The Strix is a bloodthirsty creature from Greek and Roman mythology, often depicted as a nocturnal bird resembling an owl. Legends describe it as a harbinger of evil, preying on the blood of infants and sometimes adults, particularly at night. With its sharp talons and sinister glowing eyes, the Strix was feared for its ability to slip silently through the dark, seeking out victims. Some accounts claim it could transform into a grotesque witch-like figure to deceive and ensnare its prey. The Romans believed the Strix could be warded off with protective rituals, as it was often associated with dark magic and curses. Remaining in ancient Greece, the Lamia is a beautiful woman transformed into a monstrous being. Originally, she was a queen of Libya and a lover of Zeus. However, Hera's jealousy led to a tragic turn. She killed Lamia's children, driving her mad with grief. In her anguish, Lamia became a creature that preyed on the children of others, luring them to their doom and feeding on their blood. Over time, stories also depicted her as seducing young men, using her allure to draw them in before attacking. Lamia's appearance is often that of half woman, half serpent, and was believed to have the ability to shapeshift, and some tales suggest she could remove her eyes, a gift from Zeus, allowing her to rest from her constant torment. Another from Greece is the Kallikantzaro, a creature that emerges during the 12 days between Christmas and Epiphany, which is a Christian holiday celebrated on January the 6th, marking the visit of the three wise men to the infant Jesus. Believed to be cursed, children born within this period were thought to be destined to become Kallikantzari upon death. These beings are half human, half animal, with dark, twisted features including sharp teeth, long claws, and glowing red eyes. Active only during this specific window, they emerge from caves and roam at night, attacking the living, often targeting their own families first. Known for their chaotic nature, they cause mischief and destruction, adding to their terror. To prevent a child from becoming one, parents would singe newborns' toenails over a fire, believing this would break the curse. As Epiphany approaches, the Kallikantzari retreat to their underworld domain, vanishing until next Christmas season arrives. The Bruxa from Portuguese folklore is a fearsome creature believed to have once been a witch who transformed into a blood-drinking entity. Legends say she preys on children, slipping out of her lair at night, often taking the form of a bird or other animals like rats and wolves. This ability to shapeshift allows her to move undetected and find her victims, making her a particularly dangerous figure. Although she appears as a normal woman during the day, she becomes more powerful under cover of darkness, especially between midnight and 2 a.m. Folklore describes various methods to ward off Bruxa, including amulets made of steel and iron, and even placing scissors under pillows. The Mulo from Romani folklore is a restless, undead being believed to arise when someone dies under unnatural circumstances or if proper funeral rites are not performed. The name Mulo translates to one who is dead, and these entities are known to return to haunt those they disliked in life, often seeking out relatives who may have wronged them or neglected burial customs. Mulo are described as having long, flowing hair, pale, ghostly white clothes, but they can also display other eerie physical traits which vary by region. They attack by strangling, biting, and sucking the blood of their victims, typically starting with those closest to them. In traditional practices, to prevent someone becoming a Mulo, various measures were taken, such as driving iron needles into the corpse's heart, placing steel over their eyes and mouth, or even burning the body. Moving to Asia now, we have Beital, a mysterious figure from Indian folklore, often depicted as a half-man, half-bat creature. Unlike more conventional vampires, Beitals inhabit cemeteries and hang upside down from trees, waiting to possess corpses. This gives them the power to animate the dead, using these bodies to interact with the living, making them particularly dangerous and elusive. The Rakshasa from Hindu mythology are known for shape-shifting abilities and appetite for raw flesh. Often depicted with sharp fangs, glowing red eyes, and claw-like nails, these beings could take on the appearance of animals, humans, or monstrous forms to deceive their prey. Rakshasas were notorious for their cunning and supernatural strength, and their powers were especially potent at night. In epic tales like the Ramayana and Mahabharata, they appear as formidable antagonists, with some, like the 10-headed Ravana, becoming powerful rulers. The Brahma Parush is one of the most horrifying creatures in Indian folklore, notorious for its gruesome and ritualistic methods of attack. Described as a malevolent spirit, it is said to wear the intestines of its victims like a necklace, with even more wrapped round its head as a gruesome crown. When it hunts, it begins with draining blood, which it collects in a skull to drink. Once it has consumed all the blood, it moves on to devouring the brains of its victim. The relentless creature is consumed by bloodlust and takes a sick pride in its grisly trophies. Known for its brutality, the Brahma Parush is particularly dangerous to travellers who find themselves isolated. The Jiangshi, often called the hopping vampire of Chinese folklore, is a reanimated corpse that drains the life force, or qi, from the living. Unlike traditional vampires that drink blood, Jiangshi feed on energy, making them just as dangerous. These beings are depicted with stiff, rigid bodies, which is why they move by hopping rather than walking. Often dressed in Qing dynasty attire with greenish skin and long nails, they are associated with improper burial rites or dark magic, believed to reanimate corpses into this eerie state. The Jiangshi primarily hunt at night, detecting their victims by sensing breath or movement, making it difficult to evade them. To ward them off, various traditional methods are used, including affixing Taoist talismans to their foreheads or placing sticky rice around, which is thought to neutralize their power. The Kui is a vampiric spirit, also from Chinese folklore, believed to emerge when a person's soul fails to leave the body after death. This typically happens if someone dies a violent death, leads a dishonest life, or doesn't receive proper funeral rites. Unlike traditional vampires, the Kui manifests as a shadowy dark figure that feeds on negative energy, often haunting places marked by death or sorrow, such as battlefields. Known for their cunning nature, Kui spirits can curse those who try to interfere with their feeding. They avoid holy artifacts and are unable to step onto sacred ground, making these protective items crucial for keeping them at bay. In Japan, the Hanya is a powerful spirit born from intense emotions of jealousy, rage, and betrayal. According to folklore, women who are consumed by unfulfilled love or vengeance can transform into these malevolent beings, turning their anguish into a force of terror. Though not a conventional vampire, the Hanya shares vampiric traits through its ability to possess and manipulate victims, often preying on those who have wronged or betrayed it. The spirit can haunt its targets, driving them to madness, and is especially known for luring men into its grasp. The Ketuk Kei, meaning blood-sucking demon in Japanese, embodies traditional vampiric traits within Japanese folklore. These creatures are typically depicted as undead beings that rise at night to feed on the life force of the living. They are known to possess supernatural abilities such as shape-shifting and enchanting their victims, which allows them to blend into society and lure unsuspecting prey. Many tales depict Ketuk Kei preying on beautiful women and infants, consuming their essence to sustain their own existence. The Lang Suir in Malay folklore is a vengeful ghost of a woman who died during childbirth. These beings are associated with bloodlust and are particularly known for their desire to consume the blood of the living, especially that of infants. When a woman dies in childbirth, she may rise as a Lang Suir after 40 days in the grave, driven by a relentless hunger for revenge and sustenance. Lang Suir are depicted with long hair, which they often use to hide a gaping hole in the back of their neck, through which they feed. Unlike typical vampires, they do not have prominent fangs. Instead, they draw blood directly through this orifice. The Bajang is another from Malaysian folklore, said to take the form of a weasel or cat. This spirit is created through dark rituals involving the body of a stillborn child or a deceased family member. Bajang are known for their ability to drain the life force of their victims, especially targeting children. They can be summoned by witches and are often believed to perform tasks for their masters. The Aswang from Filipino folklore embodies a variety of supernatural traits that include vampiric elements. This shape-shifting creature is often depicted as a beautiful woman by day, but at night it transforms into a terrifying being that preys on unsuspecting victims, particularly pregnant women and young children. Aswangs have long tongues which they use to suck the blood of their victims, a characteristic that highlights their predatory nature. These entities are not confined to a single appearance. They can also take on the form of various animals, like dogs or pigs, making them cunning predators capable of infiltrating human society. To protect against Aswang, traditional methods include using garlic, salt, and other deterrents, as well as specific rituals to ward off attacks. Another from the Philippines is the Manananggal. By day it appears as a beautiful woman, seamlessly integrating into society, but as night falls it reveals its monstrous nature. The Manananggal possesses a unique ability to detach its upper body from its lower half, sprouting large bat-like wings that will allow it to fly in search of unsuspecting victims, particularly pregnant women and newborns. Once it has found its prey, the Manananggal uses its long tubular tongue to drain blood. The name Manananggal comes from the Tagalog word tanggal, meaning to remove or to separate, highlighting this creature's terrifying capacity for dismemberment. From Indonesia, there's the Jenglot. Typically measuring around 10 to 12 centimeters in length, the Jenglot resembles a deformed humanoid doll, complete with long hair, sharp teeth and nails. It is believed to be created through dark magic, possibly from the remnants of a human, and it is often associated with necromancy or black magic practices. Jenglots are said to be kept by masters who feed them with blood, either animal or human, placing it nearby for the Jenglot to absorb without directly drinking. In return, these creatures are thought to provide protection, bring good luck, or even seek revenge on enemies. Moving into the Middle East now, the Edimu is one of the oldest known entities resembling a vampire, originating from ancient Mesopotamian beliefs. These spirits were thought to be the restless souls of those who died under tragic circumstances like violent deaths or improper burials, preventing them from finding peace. Edimu were depicted as shadowy, ghost-like figures, sometimes appearing as wind or moving shadows. They would wander the earth, seeking out the living to drain their life force, especially targeting the weak or sleeping. These beings were also known to cause illness and misfortune, latching onto households and spreading chaos and drinking the blood of their victims. The Utukku from ancient Mesopotamian mythology were feared for their ability to drain the life force from their victims simply through eye contact. These malevolent spirits were believed to be the restless souls of the dead who had not received proper burial rites, causing them to wander the earth hungry for the vitality of the living. Lurking in dark, lonely places, the Utukku would strike unsuspecting prey, leaving them weak and drained, as if their very essence had been consumed. Finishing off in Australian Aboriginal religion and mythology, we have the Yaramayahu, a curious red-skinned creature. This small frog-like being lurks in trees, waiting to pounce on unsuspecting travellers who rest beneath its branches. Instead of biting, the Yaramayahu uses the suckers on its hands and feet to drain blood from its prey, leaving them weakened but alive. After feeding, it performs a bizarre ritual, swallowing the person whole, taking a nap, and then regurgitating them. Each time this process repeats, the victim becomes smaller and takes on a reddish hue, eventually transforming into another Yaramayahu, if they're caught often enough. As we close our coffins on the dark legends of vampires from across the globe, we've delved into tales that blur the lines between myth and reality, life and death. Each of these creatures, from the shadowy forests of Europe to the sun-drenched landscapes of Africa, tell a story of fear, hunger, and transformation. These beings aren't just monsters lurking in the dark, they embody humanity's deepest anxieties about morality, the unknown, and the predatory nature that hides within. Through their myths, we see reflections of cultural fears, taboos, and the enduring fascination with what lies beyond the grave.